Okay, well, we're back in the garage. Last weekend didn't get as much progress I was hoping to on these tracks, and so this weekend I'm going to continue. So the plan going forward, it's kind of hard to tell with the lighting, but this bar here that was holding the back side of the original tracks is going to need to go, and basically I'm going to end up building something very similar but out of a piece of rectangular tubing. So it's going to move from kind of this location back to about here. It's going to run under the machine just like that one does. Unfortunately, I really welded the crap out of that thing, so it's not going anywhere. And basically the plan going forward is going to be to cut those two plates off flush with the chassis, because that whole bar is really of no use anymore. So cut them flush, get that out of there, get the new bar in, and then that will be what the Snowcat will ride on, or at least the back end of the Snowcat will ride on going forward. The old, the new. So I apologize for not fully capturing this part of the build, but I've really just been powering through trying to get some major progress done, and as you can see I have. So the track rails are now in place and supporting the Snowcat. All of the fabrication up front is done, so basically this bracket bolts onto the front cross member. It is welded to the front of the track rail, and the way I set it up is this front axle lines up basically with that rail. And back here we made this really nice kind of axle carrier, what have you, but basically, rather than welding it in, it's hard to see, but I've actually just bolted it through the frame, and tomorrow I'm going to take it off and weld all the way around, get that taken care of. And basically the way it attaches from the rear axle to the frame or the track rail, just a piece of flat bar. I'll weld around that a little bit better, but that basically bolts it in, so everything kind of bolts in to be received in that direction. So that should make it fairly reasonable for assembly. Unfortunately, it did eat up a little bit of my tensioning space there, so I'm hoping that that doesn't cause too many issues. If it does, well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But yeah, so far that's worked out really well. Like I said, it's pretty much, it's rolling again. It's rolling on the new frame. You can see the other side is done. This side, I also managed to get the drive sprocket. So these two outer ones are actually what will be driving the track. And this inner one here is actually just to hold form for the track as it goes around. So it kind of takes a little bit of the load and keeps the track basically from caving in the middle there. But yep, that's worked out really well. So the new track undercarriage all mounted up, and it's pretty much ready to go. Basically at this point it's a matter of pulling the undercarriage off, the rear support off, and doing some final welding, and getting the front drive cogs for the other side reconfigured. But aside from that, hit everything with a coat of paint and try and get some tracks onto this thing today. Okay, you're probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. Why why would I cut these cross members on the track rails? Well, I'll tell you why. I made an error, and the issue is that these tires, just for their nature, are not perfectly true, so when they run, they don't actually run exactly centered. They do this little kind of wobble because they're not perfect, they're kind of cheap. And the issue that created was, although there was enough clearance between the rails, it didn't account for that kind of wobble back and forth. So it ended up putting a pretty significant friction point at certain points in the tire as it would run. And I just didn't like the way that the machine really didn't want to freewheel. And so basically I'm just adding a 1/4 inch of width between these rails, but the trick is that all of my bracketry is going to remain the same. So this would be the right hand side track, and basically I've left this attachment welded, this attachment welded, so I've only broken the weld here, and basically you could see how this is now over a little bit. This used to be flush with the outside of the rail, so we basically just moved this out a tiny bit. And same thing here, it's just moved this out a tiny bit. What it really does is just makes the rails wider, but it doesn't impact the alignment that dramatically. So it moves the center line of the rails, or the center line of the tires, over. That 1/4 inch is split both ways, so it moves it over only 1/8 of an inch. Very minimal, but that 1/8 of an inch on each side basically lets these tires run free between the rails. Makes everything work really nice. So I alternated the cuts, so I have one on the left, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right. Hopefully that distributes the load. Also, because like this whole rail assembly is spanned by 1, 2, 3, 4 1-inch pins, there's a lot of structure here between the two rails, so I'm really not concerned about these welds. Once they are touched up again, it'll be perfectly fine and give us the running space we need. Here we are. I finished setting up the other drive shaft, so both of those are ready. Now it is time to get that rear cross beam installed, bolted in place, get the wheels installed into the track rails, and start to get the tracks on this thing. So it's time to put it together. There we go. We got the first track installed. It's tensioned, everything's bolted in. I gotta tighten up a couple things, but for the most part, that's it. It is ready. It's actually just sitting about an inch off the ground right now, so it's looking fantastic. I'm really pleased with this so far. So gonna get the other side on now. Okie dokie. Well, the tracks are done. They are installed. It is a bit of a struggle, but it is possible, which is always a good sign. That means I didn't totally screw up. And yeah, I am just about to, I still have it on the axle stand, so I'm about just to start it up and run the tracks just in the air and see how everything works. So, big moment of truth here. Well, that was a success. Next is I just need to check the tire pressure, make sure that they're all inflated pretty much to the max, and get this sucker outside into the snow.